let's not waste more time again. Please welcome CEO of Bukalapak, Bapak Rahmat Kaimuddin. Welcome, Pak Rahmat.
Halo, halo. Sorry, let me turn on the light. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Pak.
A little dark. Okay.
Yep.
Morning, Pak Taufik. How are you?
Yes, today? Pak. Good, great. Can wait to hear every lessons from you, Pak Rahmat.
We'll try to make this useful. Okay.
Yes, of course, Pak. Please share the slide.
When I start, okay. I'll start the share my slide. Okay. Morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to share Bukalapak story on this summit, and I'll try to maybe tell this story for half hour or so, and then if we have questions, we can discuss. So as Pak Taufik introduced us just now, Bukalapak is a technology company in e-commerce business, and basically we have been around in Indonesia for almost 11 years now. So it's one of those tech pioneers, and now one of the handful of the Indonesian unicorn. And I actually joined this company not unlike other tech companies. Typically, the CEO is the founder. I actually joined this company as a professional, and I actually joined this company in the beginning of this year. Still learning, and not even 100 days yet. Suddenly COVID happens, and we have to do a lot of changes in the office as well. But anyway, so if you're talking about technology company, typically you kind of try to solve some problems in the society, and the companies that can try to solve big problems typically can become big as well, and but also of course the risk is also higher. And in Bukalapak, I think when it was founded, the problem that was seen by the founders at the time is that how come Indonesian people, some of them can be connected to commerce better than the others? How come small and medium enterprises have problems to realize their potential? And when we see, in this slide, we talk about there are a few ways, few barriers or few problems that makes commerce is not accessible or less accessible to everyone. For example, capital. If you have a lot of capital, then immediately you have a lot more opportunity to access bigger markets. You can open your shop in nice mall. You can open your shops in multiple cities, and basically then you can access bigger market. But if you don't have a lot of capital, or you have no capital at all, then you can only open your shop, let's say in your home or in the road nearby, and you can only access very few people. So opportunities is actually driven by capital before. The other problem that we've seen is that in terms of infrastructure, typically if you are born outside of the commercial centers, you have limited access. I myself actually was born outside of Java. I am from Makassar, and I remember when I was little, there are many things that you can only get in Jakarta. You cannot get in your hometown. And same if you live in the outside of Jakarta, Surabaya, or big cities, there are many things that you cannot get. Also, if you are a seller and you happen to be born in small cities or in the village, again, you can only access a smaller market, and then your potential to grow is somewhat limited. The other thing that we've seen as a problem is financial inclusion. A lot of people still don't have bank accounts, and or they don't have digital currency. They only have physical currency, which is the paper money that we have. Yeah, and if we have a physical currency, you can only transact as far as your body can take you. You just, if you want to transact using the physical currency, then you actually have to be physically there as well. And then of course your access again is limited. So these are what we've seen to be a problem, and this is a problem that we are trying to help solve in Bukalapak. Pak Taufik mentioned our mission in Bukalapak. We call it a fair economy for all. What does that mean? What we want is for everyone to be able to sell, buy and sell goods and services fairly. So, you know, if you want to buy or sell or doing trades, it doesn't matter whether you have a lot of money or not, or you are born in big cities or in the village. It should be somewhat equal. Or even if you have a digital currency or not, again, part of the infrastructure. The idea is that we want to bring this ability to do commerce or to buy and sell goods and services as fair as possible. And this is what we are trying to do in Bukalapak. This is what keeps us going. And I mean, of course, we started by creating e-commerce, and suddenly COVID happens this year. And this is also kind of strengthening our spirit, yeah, because in COVID era, a lot of people seek to transact online, and our product that is originally, we feel like, we are just an alternative way for people to do business. Now it's something that people look for, and this kind of give us more energy. And during COVID, yeah, what the big things that we've seen, at least from e-commerce perspective, is first of all, people are more health conscious, because COVID is a health problem. So everyone want to try to be healthier. They want to increase their immune system, and you know, they want to eat healthy. They want to exercise and whatnot, right? The other thing that we've seen in during COVID is home centricity. People are afraid to go out. They spend much more time in their home and or surrounding. Yeah, they prefer not to go to office. They prefer not to go travel far or go to the restaurant and whatnot. As much as possible, they want to, or they have to be at home. The third big trend that we've seen is basically wiser spending. It's this COVID creates, initially is a health crisis but also then become economic crisis. We all know Indonesia is facing recession, so seems like everyone is trying to spend wisely. Yeah, they buy cheaper goods, or they postpone something that is not urgent and whatnot. These are the key trends, and also bring certain type of opportunities. In terms of spending, people spend differently. The things that they buy, you know, before in e-commerce, a lot of people buy handphone, electronics, fashion goods, and some of those things now, because of COVID, they decided to postpone. You know, but instead, because they're more health conscious or home centric, people spend a lot more things in personal care, vitamins, things to exercise at home, bikes, for example. Also, they try to make their home comfortable. So, you know, they buy plants, they buy video games, they buy pajamas, and maybe nicer things at home too. So these are the things that people that we see an increase in e-commerce. Change in transaction behavior also happened. Again, before most of Indonesians they want to transact offline, but now because of COVID, a lot of people actually shifted to online transaction. And again, for us specifically as one of the kind of bigger technology company, there are some sort of demand to take leadership in the society together, of course, with the government. So we speak a lot with the government on some of this their government program. We are involved in some of the kind of semi-stimulus activities with the government. We do some movements to promote local products and whatnot. Yeah, and again, for Bukalapak, when this happened, there are a few things that we need to focus on. First is we need to ensure that our staff is safe, but our operation is also intact. Yeah, our operation has to move and run as normal as possible, even though we change the behavior. The other thing that we have to do is customer education. Because of change of transaction, change of behavior, we've seen a lot of new users in Bukalapak, and they probably need a little bit more education to ensure that they can transact safely. Also, we do a lot of education for new sellers and new merchants, because maybe they need additional income. They want to open at-home business. They want to open warung, and suddenly they decided that, okay, now I want to join an e-commerce platform. We do a lot of that as well. And again, collaboration with the government. I think for maybe 20 years of my career, this is actually first time we communicate and discuss very intensively with the governments in trying to find solutions. What is the best for the society? Both focusing on pushing the economy to continue growing, continue growing even in this crisis era. So let me quickly step back a little bit and discuss about Indonesia digital landscape. Yeah, we've seen the problem of Indonesia just now, that we have capital problem, we have infrastructure issues, we have digital financial inclusion problems, and now after COVID, e-commerce is actually needed more than ever. It looks like good opportunity, yeah. And also, if we see Indonesia, 270 million people, a large population, a lot of internet user, 197 million by the last data, and the internet economy is also growing quite fast. The internet economy in Indonesia is now equal to 44 billion, and it's growing very, very fast, about 40% year-on-year annual growth, compounded annual growth over the 5-year period. But that being said, this looks like a high growth, big number. If you think about Indonesian GDP, it's about 1,000 billion dollars. It's still very, very small. Maybe about less than 5% of actually Indonesian GDP. So there's a lot of potential in the internet economy. And if we break down the internet economy from 2019 to 2020, typically I took this data from Google Temasek and Bain e-Economy report, and they typically divided the internet economy into 4 segments: e-commerce, transport and food, online travel, and online media. And of the, let's say, 44 billion internet economy, actually about three quarter of that is actually in e-commerce. So $32 billion is actually e-commerce, and e-commerce is actually probably one of the big segments that grows during COVID. So it was 20 billion, now grows to 32. Our growth about 54% in a year. Transport and food, because of restrictions and whatnot, it was originally about 6 billion, dropped about 18% to 5 billion this year. Online travel, again, because of restriction, people travel less, dropped quite significantly from $10 billion last year to about 3 this year. And online media, also something that is actually growing quite significantly from relatively smaller base, from 3.45 to $4.4 billion, growth 24%. And it's also quite logical, because people ride, maybe in transport, people go out less, they travel less, but they consume more media, and actually they do online transaction more. Now, what do we do in Bukalapak, in bridging this? First of all, we see the problem, we see the potential. People are using internet, and even though actually a lot of people use internet, it's only still say 4% of the GDP. That's actually the internet economy. But again, we have made a lot of progress over the years. If you look at the first problem, for example, in terms of having capital, in Bukalapak we create our online marketplace. This is the application Bukalapak, selling physical products. If you see in Bukalapak, we actually have the SMEs and the big business. They kind of look and feel the same in our application. So if you are selling, if you open a lapak or online store in our application, your online store, it doesn't look that much different compared to the big brands. And people also can transact similarly. This is also a way for us to bring the fairness of access. Like every single one of our user who can access this big brand shops, they can also access your shops. It really depends on how well do you manage it. Typically, what you need is to take good picture, to write good, basically to write good description of your product, and then you need to take care of your customer. And if you're taking care of your customer well, then you can get good review, you can grow, everyone have the same access. The other thing that we are working on, again, if you're talking about infrastructure, before, typically if you want to do something, for example, you want to pay our electricity bill, if you want to pay our tax bill, if you want to pay our water bill and whatnot, typically you just have to go to a bank or the office, right? And you have to travel quite a bit. And this is something that we are trying to solve as well in Bukalapak by creating virtual product supermarket. Now in our application, people can actually do payments, electricity, Samsat, credit cards, TV cables, and whatnot. They can buy tickets, travel as well. They can top up for credit, and actually now they can even borrow money. They can apply for loans and also buy investment products. So you can buy mutual funds, you can buy gold products in this application. So no longer that you have to go out very far, take angkot to the nearest city. As long as you get internet signal and you have our application, you can start doing all these things. Now, one of the things that we've seen as well, before when we work on this online marketplace, one of the key things that they have to have in online marketplace is that if each customer have to have digital currency. If they don't have digital currency, they cannot transact. online. And a lot of these people who doesn't transact online, it's still very, very small portion of the Indonesian economy. When we look at the other side, in the offline market, seems like a lot of people still transact not only online, but they transact in their neighborhood shops, in the warungs in Indonesian, we call it. So from a study, there's a research saying like between 65 to 70% of total retail sales in Indonesia comes from warung. So it's a huge market. And we see this as an opportunity for us to kind of create something that can improve the warung business, as well as to connect people who doesn't have digital currencies, so we want to use these people who are currently not in e-commerce because they don't have digital currency. They still transact with cash. They don't like to buy online. They want to see people. How can we combine these two things using warung? So we created an application called Mitra Bukalapak. So we sign up this warung and physical agents. And what the application does is that this warung, first of all, they can order their inventory from the application. So sometimes if they run out of something, typically this warung have to close down their shop and they have to go to the market and shop, and they bring back and they lose opportunity because they have to pay money, they have to close down their shop. They cannot do transaction when the shop is closed. Hold on. Let me. In the office.
It's okay, Pak Ahmad.
Okay, the announcement is done. Anyway, so first we create this application that people can order, the opportunity cost, and also we are combining or aggregating the demand from this warung, and we are trying to get them better price and higher margin for them. The second thing is that we have these virtual products capabilities in our online marketplace. We infuse that capability in the warung, the Mitra Bukalapak application, and now the warung can offer this service also to their neighbors. So now they can accept payments, they can buy virtual products, they can do investments and whatnot through the warung. And this is not something that is not unusual for us. If you see this in the modern trade, for example, the modern trade in the cities, they have these capabilities already, but the warung originally didn't have that capability, and they don't have the resources also to go to the big telco, to the power company to offer these capabilities. But with Mitra Bukalapak, now they can offer this service as well. So more service, more income for them. The third one now is that we are working with banks to sign up this warung to become branchless banking agent. So now people can do simple banking transaction in some of this warung, the one that we already sign up, and KYC. So people now can basically transfer money. They just go, if they need to go to, they need to transfer money, they just need to go to the nearest warung that offer the service. And again, it's a way for us to include people who didn't have digital currency before. Now, where we are in Bukalapak. So in Bukalapak, we have these two services. We have this, we call it 2-in-1 platform, the online platform and the online to offline platform. And in our online platform, currently we have about 6 million merchants, all basically Indonesian and mostly small and medium enterprises. And we have about 100 million registered users that transact in our application. And of course, in order for us to serve these merchants as well as the buyers, we need to have payment partners. So we have banks, about 26 at the moment, and we need to partner with a lot of logistic players as well, because we need to ensure that the goods can be delivered well to the buyer. And currently we have about 12 partners. In Mitra Bukalapak, of course, we partner a lot with principals, producers, wholesalers to provide the infrastructure to deliver the goods. Currently, we have about 6 million warung, mom and pop shops, and individual agents. And practically, it's not something that we can count the offline users. Typically, these are the neighbors of the warung. Then they can transact, they can be connected in the e-commerce through our Mitra Bukalapak. So maybe that is quickly our story, and I want to bring back to the time to Pak Taufik. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Rahmat. That was a great sharing to all of us. Not only me, but all audience get very, very many learning from your sharing, and got the what you know the essentials of the condition about e-commerce in this situation, and also have a clear I think landscape. I think about the e-commerce in our country, Indonesia. So check the chat box, Pak Rahmat, and I found some question already pop up there. The first one is from Pak. Let me check it. Okay, from Pak JJ. From Pak JJ. I will also paste the question in our backstage chat box, Pak Rahmat. Hopefully more clear for you to get the point of the question. He asked about two questions actually that he asked to you, Pak Rahmat, is about the expansion strategy to more Asia. That about the highlight of the first question, and the second one is for the longer term strategy. Currently, e-commerce is also many e-commerce has come up. So how I think Pak J want to know your perspective, Pak Rahmat, for the Bukalapak. I think that's the first two questions, Pak Rahmat.
Thank you, Pak JJ dan Pak Taufik. Basically, I think our strategy is very, very connected to our birth and our mission. So the way we see this is that we are a player in e-commerce since the beginning, online marketplace. But what we target is actually not only from the kind of the low-hanging fruits, if you will. Our strategy is actually to go to what we call outside of tier 1 cities and small and medium or mass market, small and medium enterprises, middle low income type of people, basically. So we want to be the market for the e-commerce for the market, for the masses. And maybe I alluded to just now, basically, if you look at the online marketplace or e-commerce market in itself, in Indonesia, at least before COVID, is, depending on the report that you read, is between 3 to 5%. And even if the market grows, let's say 50%, it's still single digit. But if you look at the offline market, is 65 to 70%. So the strategy in Bukalapak is that we want to kind of shift kind of shift our energy as well, not only focusing in this online market, but how can we embrace or onboard this or digitize this people who are probably before underserved to actually be connected to the e-commerce. So, and we believe that this is actually huge market, and it's also a huge challenge, and it will probably take our resources. And yeah, the capital that we get, our effort so far has been, I think, has been very positive. We started this Mitra Bukalapak in 2017, basically from zero. Now maybe yeah, they grow much faster than our online marketplace, and even our online marketplace is still growing very fast. Today, maybe like in terms of value of transaction, this offline is already kind of half of our online. So from zero. So yeah, I mean, I think we will continue again expanding our online marketplace, improving the product, getting sellers, more sellers, and also we need to sign up more merchants and kind of connect, adding more products, and then kind of connect these two things, yeah, because the online and the offline, then we'll be able to touch much larger market instead of going to Asian retail market. Of course, we do have some product and service actually, but mostly from inbound to outbound. We call it Buka Global with selected countries, Malaysia, Singapore, and whatnot. But again, I believe Indonesian market is very big and have a lot of potential. And even just logically, if we can kind of replace or substitute some of the imported goods into local products, it's already very big potential. Maybe that's what my comment, yeah, Pak Taufik.
Okay. So that's including answer the question number from Pak JJ.
Yeah, maybe quick one on the number 2. I think we have direct competition. From my side, yeah, I think e-commerce is a large market. Yes, now half of, or maybe 3/4 of the internet economy is actually e-commerce, and we are not even started yet. Yeah, we are only scratching the surface. So I mean, I think there are some players that is in this segment. There are some overlaps with our business, but for Bukalapak, I think in e-commerce we are one of the big players. But in the O2O business, I think with our merchants, with our business, we are the biggest. So maybe yeah, we are kind of like direct competitors with some, but maybe not on the other. If you look at the other guys, yeah, from international, to be honest, again, some people already here. For example, the regional players like Shopee, Lazada, they are already here, and we are still growing, all of us. If this big guys from international like Amazon, AliExpress, we don't know what is their plan. But again, if they want to come, please. This is also our home turf, and yeah, of course we'll see who can serve the customers best.
Okay. Thank you, Babat. I think we all got your point, Pak J. From my perspective, Pak Ahmad, I'm truly inspired by the Bukalapak vision. Provide fair for all. I think that's a very purpose and differentiate, I think, Bukalapak to the others also, and that's one of the also strength in my point of view. Okay, let's go to the next question, Pak, coming from Pak Bari. He asking previously, I think. Okay, Dia Celia also pose the question, technical, but so we can buy something from that warung via Bukalapak apps, Pak. So I think that's technically this question, but I think so, Pak. Yeah. So connection O2O that you mentioned before, yeah, online and offline. Is that true, Pak? Yeah.
Basically, yeah, two ways. Yeah. First of all, in Mitra Bukalapak apps, the Mitra Bukalapak apps, the user of the apps is the warung, and and they are the one that order the goods from us. They actually use our technology to provide, let's say, bill payment service and remittance service, and the ones that are basically their customer will be their neighbors, yeah, the one that shopped in that warung. In our online marketplace, we have that we have some basically everyone can become merchants, yeah, and some of these merchants are warung. So they can shop. You can shop in Bukamart, for example. You shop there, and then the goods will need to be delivered, and because you know, if you shop in the nearest warung, then they can just go deliver it to you. Basically, that is the difference. Now, maybe about security. We touched a little bit about this, yeah. So I think security is a very important topic, and it is a problem for everyone actually in technology. I think if you're talking about internet security, it's like talking about home security as well. We cannot say, and I don't think anyone can say that, okay, my home is 100% safe from thief, for example, because it will attract certain type of people that they will try to crack, right? They will, you know, maybe the Ocean 11 people will come and try to. So this is not something that you know. But what we are trying to do is to make it difficult for them. And I mean, this is an issue that we take very, very seriously. This is also an issue that the government took very, very seriously. To be honest, I mean, late last year, so almost 2 years from now, we get some data breach. Luckily, it was, well, like Indonesian style, everything is lucky. Yeah. Of course, this is bad thing, but it's an old data. So they basically the data from 2017 was basically stolen and sold in the market, and it was reported to us. So, and then of course we did a lot of soul searching afterwards. We improved our process, you know, and yeah, I think we have gone a long way from that. Also, and yeah, the good thing is the government is also taking some action. They call us, they ensure we are fulfilling certain standard. There is a law that we have to comply, blah, blah, blah. We do that. And we understand also the government is very, what do you call it? Yeah. They look at this issue very seriously. For example, earlier this year, there is a data breach from one of our other technology company, for example. We also get called again. They check again everything. So yeah, I mean, this is something that we keep improving moving forward. One of the things that like both internal and external. So this year, one of the kind of big thing that we try to do is we move to cloud service, and then in cloud service. And we use one of the big tech company, and by definition, it's like their security is better. So it's like yeah, I said it's like on-prem. It's like you having your house next to the road. But if you go to the cloud, basically it's like you live in a complex. So there is some infrastructure, shared infrastructure. We have to also fulfill certain type of standard. In order to use that service, then yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we try to take this issue seriously. We look into the usage of sensitive data, who use it, and we only, once you use it, you have to delete and whatnot. Those are the kind of things that we do in Bukalapak.
Okay. Okay. I think that answer Pak Stefanus, right? It talks about the security issues, how Bukalapak address that concern. Okay, let me continue to Pak Bari question that previously I mentioned. He asked about how do you see Pak Rahmat and predict the users of online marketplace after the pandemic?
Sorry Pak, can you repeat?
Yes, Pak Bari's question, how do you see and predict the use of online marketplace after the pandemic, Pak Rahmat?
Yeah, well, that is very interesting. I mean, I think what we need to see is the driver of the behavior. Again, right now, when people cannot go out and people are worried, about their health, and people are worried about their income, they behave differently, and we'll see which ones that will stay, which ones that are not. And I'm purely guessing here. I would say maybe the home centricity, once COVID is finished, will change. People will probably want to go out again for a little bit, but in terms of health consciousness is something that I think will stick. I think now everyone knows how to wash hands properly. So and, maybe they create a new healthy habit, and if they feel good about themselves once they exercise, they probably want to continue. They probably learn about eating healthy and whatnot, right? So I think that is something will stick. About value, spending wisely, I think this is something that will stick, and it's also wishful thinking as well, because again, two things. One, saving money is always good, and also people now start thinking, which one do I really need, which one not. And recession is probably, we don't know how long it's gonna finish, and also I'm hoping that now in Indonesia, now people like to buy now from their neighbors. They buy local products, and they kind of again see more functional things and value for money things. So those are, I think, my thought after pandemic.
Okay. Okay, let me go to the question from, this is interesting, quietly interesting question, Pak, from Aisyah Yuhanidanur. She asks, what are the strategy that are proven fasten internal process in Bukalapak so that all of the opportunities are out immediately, Pak?
Yeah, I think basically, maybe on top of my head, two things. One is communication, and the second one is structure, right? So in Bukalapak, we try to adopt what we call this OKR, objective and key results. So basically, there is this book called Measure What Matters by John Doerr. John Doerr is a very legendary venture capitalist, and he is one of this early funder of Google and many other top tech companies in the world. And he introduced this, and he got it also from his mentor, which is Andy Grove from Intel, which is basically telling that you have to clarify your communication, put it as an objective, and clarify what is the key results that you need to achieve, and you put it in a transparent manner to everyone. And that is one thing that we are adopting in Bukalapak, and it's not easy. We started with training. We kind of elaborate the terms, when we ask people to create it in the beginning, it's kind of not what it is, right? But it's been a very interesting journey. So, but yeah, again, communication is very critical because everyone needs to know what is important and where are we going to do. The second thing is a little bit more kind of hard, yeah, which is the hard infrastructure, meaning like in org structure. How are we organized? So in Bukalapak, in business side, we have what we call tribes or suku. Yeah. So like of course we have this type of matrix organization whereby there is people who run the marketplace business, the virtual product business, the mitra business, and we have functionals like technology, data, design. So these guys typically we embed into these tribes as well. So everyone is part of, they can get technical knowledge from their functions, but they also get business knowledge from the tribes, and the tribes leader also can kind of control in a way, the resources that they need in terms of, say, technology, in terms of data and whatnot. So these are the kind of things, because once you communicate but if you don't support it with org structure, it's hard to be fast.
Okay. Oh, that was great. So one of the strategy is combining Pak Rahmat, between the organization and also the tribes that drive for the more faster initiative to deliver more fast values or services or product to market.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, one more thing maybe that I can add is the willingness to try and fix something very quickly as well. Because in the end of the day, we don't know all the answers, but we should quickly capture the data and improve. So we adopt this like agile work and whatnot. So create something first, what we call MVP, minimal viable products, but then we try to improve after, because in the end, perfection is the enemy, right? So, of
Yes.
like launching something good. So sometimes it's like something good enough first, but we also should not just be happy with minimal, right? We have to kind of feedback and improve again.
Yes, strongly agree on that, Pak Rahmat. That's mindset, Pak Rahmat, yeah. Top of management until to the team in the field who involved in development has that kind of mindset, I think. Willingness to try, fixing something quickly, do not drag by perfection or any of image. Sometimes corporation, I don't know what to call it, need to show something bigger. They tempted to launch big, yes. So they lose the momentum. So the cost of delay, they don't consider the cost of delay. I think that's a very, very great mindset that I think it's important that we consider to make our organization agile and can create continuously. I think what time we have now? Okay, 11:59. Pak Rahmat, actually, I don't know if any interesting question. I think we already tried to scan all interesting question, and I think the time is up. Pak, and thank you very much for your sharing. That was a great sharing. So many insight that you shared to us, and no matter what our industry, all the audience get the point from what you shared, Pak Rahmat. And we do hope our collaboration will not stop here, Pak Rahmat, and we can have a further discussion, further any collaboration to, I think we get some alignment with the vision of Bukalapak, yeah, provide fair economy for all, Pak Rahmat, ya. I think that's the spirit. I get the spirit. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you Pak Taufik. And ya, mohon maaf kalau ada salah-salah kata. Terima kasih. Hopefully it's useful. Thank you.
Pak Rahmat, great.